I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine being so valued, so respected, that your absence is noticed as much as your presence. Imagine commanding a room not because you're always there, but because people want you there. Too often we believe that showing up everywhere, saying yes to everyone, and being constantly available will make us indispensable. But the truth is, and I've seen this time and time again, in business and in life, it's exactly the opposite. Today I'm going to share why letting them miss you isn't selfish, it's strategic. Why raising your value isn't about arrogance, it's about authenticity. And why when you invest in yourself first, the world learns to invest in you too. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share isn't just about being liked, it's about becoming truly unforgettable. Here's an expanded 800-word segment for a key point one, in the style of Ivanka Trump, polished, warm yet confident, slightly corporate but human, and flowing naturally. There's something remarkably powerful in understanding that presents are two sides of the same coin, and both hold value if we learn to use them wisely. Too often, especially in our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, we confuse availability with importance. We think the more we're seen, the more we matter. The more we're heard, the more we'll be remembered. But what if I told you it's not the constant presence that truly leaves an impression? It's the selective, thoughtful presence that does. I've seen this lesson unfold countless times, not just in boardrooms or on stages, but in the quiet moments that truly define relationships. When we're always there, always responding, always saying yes, we unintentionally lower the value others place on our time, our attention, and ultimately on us, and ultimately on us. We become part of the background noise, reliable perhaps, but no longer remarkable. And isn't it our goal, ultimately, to be remarkable? The human mind craves contrast. Absence is what creates that contrast. It's what gives our presence depth and meaning. Think about someone you respect or admire. Maybe a mentor, a leader, or even someone you love. Notice how much more you cherish their words when they don't speak often. How their approval feels more significant when it isn't automatic. It isn't about playing games. It's about allowing your presence to carry real weight. Years ago, early in my career, I found myself caught in the belief that my worth was directly tied to how accessible I could be. I replied to every message within minutes. I agreed to every meeting, every coffee, every opportunity, even when my intuition whispered that I was spreading myself too thin. And for a while it worked. People were pleased, doors opened, and it felt like progress. But over time, something subtle but critical happened. My presence became expected, not appreciated. My contributions, though genuine, started blending into the routine. And it wasn't until I consciously stepped back, refocused, and redefined when and how I showed up that my voice regained its strength and my value became visible again. Stepping back doesn't mean stepping away forever. It means becoming intentional. It means knowing when your presence will have the most impact and when silence will speak louder. It's about showing that your time isn't an unlimited resource, because it isn't. And when others sense that you value your time, they're far more likely to value it too. This principle isn't limited to professional spaces. In friendships, relationships, even family dynamics, constant availability can sometimes breed complacency. We've all experienced moments where people only truly notice what we bring to the table after we're no longer setting it every single day. It doesn't mean we should be cold or distant. But it does mean we should trust that the best parts of who we are don't vanish just because we're not always on display. Right. So instead, I made a conscious choice to create space for growth. Reading deeply, listening carefully to people I admired, and reflecting honestly on what mattered to me beyond titles or achievements. What surprised me wasn't just how much I changed internally, but how others began to respond. Colleagues, friends, and even competitors sensed something different. A quiet confidence that can only come from genuine self-investment. Suddenly, my absence didn't create gaps, it sparked curiosity. And when I returned, I had something new to offer. Fresh ideas, sharper skills, and a perspective shaped by more than the last meeting I attended. This is the heart of raising your value. Becoming a person whose presence naturally enriches the room because you've done the inner work. The truth is, people don't just miss the time you spend with them. They miss the inspiration, clarity, and energy you bring. And you can only give those things sustainably when you've taken the time to cultivate them within yourself. Sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking that pouring endlessly into others is noble, and it can be, but only if it's balanced with pouring back into ourselves. Think about the times you've been most inspired by someone. It's rarely because they burn themselves out trying to please everyone. It's usually because they stood rooted in who they were, growing quietly and steadily, and then shared that growth with authenticity and grace. Investing in yourself also means embracing curiosity. The world is changing faster than ever, and what kept you relevant yesterday might not be enough tomorrow. Stay curious about new skills, new technologies, and new perspectives. Approach learning not as an obligation, but as an opportunity to discover new parts of who you can become. And don't limit this curiosity to professional development. Explore art, history, philosophy, anything that broadens your view of the world and deepens your capacity to connect with others. Another powerful form of self-investment is nurturing your emotional intelligence. Technical knowledge opens doors, but emotional intelligence keeps them open. It's the ability to listen without rushing to respond, to notice what's unsaid, and to approach challenges not with defensiveness, but with curiosity. And it's something that can only truly grow when we slow down, reflect, and practice being fully present with ourselves first. Self-investment isn't selfish, it's the opposite. By becoming more whole, more balanced, and more resilient, you offer something richer to everyone around you. You create relationships built not on constant availability, but on genuine value. You become the kind of person whose presence people look forward to, whose opinion carries weight, and whose absence is felt not because you were always there, but because when you were there, you truly mattered. You truly mattered. This process is not about perfection, it's about progress. Slow, steady, often unseen progress that over time changes not only what you do, but who you are. And the beauty of it is that no one else can do this work for you. It's deeply personal, often challenging, but ultimately the most rewarding investment you will ever make. At the end of the day, letting them miss you is only powerful if you return with something worth sharing. And that something is built, quietly and deliberately, in the moments you dedicate to your own growth. Because the world won't just remember how often you showed up, it will remember what you became in the moments no one was watching. Thank you. Here's Inviderd Sungbin expanding key point 3 in a seamless, confident, conversational style, as if Ivanka Trump is speaking, following naturally from the previous points and closing with a single impactful line. Meaningful, and how investing deeply in yourself gives others something truly valuable to miss. But there's another principle that brings this idea to life in the real world. The choice to prioritize quality over quantity in our connections. In today's culture, there's a constant pressure to be everywhere at once. To attend every event, answer every call, accept every invitation, and build the largest possible network. It's tempting because on the surface, more looks like better. More followers, more meetings, more names on your contact list. But what I've learned over time, and what life, business, and personal relationships all reveal, is that true influence, true value isn't built on the number of connections you have. It's built on the depth and authenticity of the few that really matter. When I look back at some of the most defining moments in my career and personal life, they didn't come from casual acquaintances or a packed calendar of networking events. They came from meaningful, genuine relationships, the conversations where people felt truly heard, the partnerships where trust was built patiently over time, and the friendships that stayed strong even when circumstances changed. Those connections had substance, and that substance made all the difference. We sometimes underestimate the power of being intentional about where we invest our energy. If we're everywhere, we're nowhere deeply. We risk spreading ourselves so thin that our presence stops leaving an impact. But when we choose quality, we make every interaction count. We listen more closely, we remember the details, and we respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. In doing so, we don't just create contacts, we create trust. In business, this can look like choosing to nurture a few partnerships that align with your values and vision instead of chasing every deal. It might mean turning down opportunities that sound appealing in the short term, but don't support your long-term goals. It can be uncomfortable because it means saying a no more often. But every no to what doesn't serve your purpose becomes a louder yes to what truly does. And this principle applies far beyond professional life. In our personal circles, the same truth holds. Surrounding ourselves with people who encourage growth, who challenge us kindly but firmly, and who bring out the best in us is far more important than simply being part of a large social circle. When we invest in fewer, deeper relationships, sustain us through change, failure, and success alike, they anchor us. I remember times when I felt pulled in too many directions, trying to be everything for everyone. And what I discovered is that this doesn't actually serve anyone well. When you're scattered, your energy becomes diluted, and the people who matter most, your family, your close friends, your trusted colleagues, end up getting only fragments of you. But when you choose carefully and show up fully, even fewer connections can have a far greater impact. Choosing quality over quantity is also an act of respect for yourself and for others. It signals that you value your time and theirs. That you're not just showing up to be seen, but to truly engage. It means that when you do offer your attention, it's sincere and complete. And that sincerity is something people remember long after the conversation ends. In a digital age where it's easy to collect thousands of superficial contacts, true connection becomes even more valuable. Think about it. Anyone can send a message, but how many truly listen? Anyone can know someone, but how many truly understand? It's the depth that makes us memorable, the authenticity that makes us irreplaceable. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or avoiding new connections. It means being discerning about where you give your energy and being fully present when you give it. It's about showing up not just to fill a seat, but to make a difference in the room. And when people feel that depth of presence, they don't just remember your face. They remember how you made them feel, and that's what stays with them. Another beautiful effect of prioritizing quality is that it frees us from the fear of missing out. When you know you've chosen the right people and the right moments, you stop worrying about the rooms you're not in. Your value isn't defined by quantity, but by the substance of what you bring to the places and people who matter most. Over time, this approach shapes not just your relationships, but your reputation. People begin to see you as someone whose words carry weight, whose commitments mean something, and whose presence adds value beyond the obvious. And that reputation, built quietly and patiently, is far more resilient than any network built only for appearances. Ultimately, it comes back to a simple truth. It's better to be deeply trusted by a few than vaguely known by many. Because it's those few who will advocate for you when you're not in the room, who will challenge you to keep growing, and who will remind you of your purpose when you forget. And in the end, it's not how many people know your name, it's how many people feel your impact. Thank you. Here's an Insert Word segment, expanding key point 4, written in a seamless, confident, conversational style as if it's being delivered live, flowing naturally from the previous points and closing with a single, impactful line. We've talked about why stepping back makes your presence more meaningful, how investing in yourself transforms what you bring to the table, and why choosing depth over breadth in your relationships elevates your value. But there's one more dimension to this idea that ties everything together: the power of cultivating mystery and quiet confidence. It's a concept that sometimes makes people uncomfortable because it feels counter to our culture of total openness and instant sharing. We live in a world where we're encouraged to broadcast every thought, every meal, every moment. But there's something profoundly powerful about knowing when to speak and when to hold back. About sharing just enough to spark curiosity, but not so much that nothing remains to discover. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about being intentional with what you reveal. It's about understanding that your story, your ideas, and your vision have more impact when they unfold gradually rather than all at once. Think of the people who leave the strongest impression on you. Often, it's not because they say everything they know or display every accomplishment, but because they share thoughtfully and purposefully. They leave room for others to lean in, to wonder, to want to know more. There's strength in restraint. It shows that you're confident enough in your own worth that you don't feel the need to prove it constantly. And that quiet confidence draws people to you far more powerfully than words ever could. Because when you believe in your value, you don't have to shout it. It becomes visible in how you carry yourself, in the questions you ask, and in the calm assurance with which you listen. Over the years, I've learned that what you choose not to say can speak just as loudly as what you do say. Holding something back isn't about manipulation. It's about respect, for yourself and for others. It's a way of giving your words and actions more weight. When people know you don't speak just to fill silence, they pay closer attention when you do speak. And when they realize there's always more to learn about you, it keeps them engaged, curious, and invested. Cultivating mystery also creates space for growth. When you're not defined by every opinion you've shared publicly, you have the freedom to evolve without contradiction. You can change your mind, refine your perspective, and bring new insights to the table without being trapped by your past words. That flexibility isn't just strategic, it's deeply human. Because we're all meant to grow and change, and mystery gives us room to do so gracefully. Equally important is the confidence that anchors that mystery. Confidence isn't arrogance. It isn't loud or brash. It's steady and rooted. It comes from knowing your strengths and accepting your imperfections without apology. And it shows in small ways, in the way you enter a room, in the way you listen more than you speak, and in the quiet certainty that your value doesn't depend on constant validation. True confidence allows you to focus on substance over spectacle. It frees you from chasing attention because you understand that real impact isn't measured by how many people notice you instantly, but by how deeply they remember you afterward. And paired with a touch of mystery, that confidence becomes magnetic. People feel drawn to what they can't quite define, and they remember the presence that made them feel seen and valued without demanding the spotlight. I've seen this principle play out time and again. The leaders who inspire lasting loyalty aren't the loudest voices in the room. They're the ones who listen intently, who speak with purpose, and who always seem to have more depth than what's immediately visible. Their mystery isn't about secrecy, it's about substance, and their confidence isn't about ego. It's about authenticity. In a world that prizes instant answers and constant visibility, choosing to hold something back feels countercultural, but it's precisely that choice that sets you apart. It creates a dynamic where people lean forward instead of leaning back, where curiosity replaces complacency, and where your value grows over time rather than peaking all at once. And this approach doesn't mean closing yourself off or playing a part that isn't real. It means being true to who you are while recognizing that not every part of your journey needs to be displayed. Some parts are yours to keep, to nurture, and to reveal when the moment is right. And in doing so, you remind the world that your worth isn't defined by what's immediately visible, but by what's built slowly, thoughtfully, and authentically. Ultimately, letting them miss you isn't about absence alone. It's about returning with something deeper, richer, and more intriguing than before. It's about balancing openness with restraint, strength with humility, and clarity with just enough mystery to keep people wanting to know more. Because at the end of the day, your value isn't found in how loudly you speak or how much you reveal. It's in the quiet confidence and carefully chosen mystery that make your presence unforgettable. Thank you.